Them they give a whole full community, may they share one bag of rice. But yet, our lawmakers are ready to own over 130 million Prado SUV. Each of them. My country people, this country is finished.
The House of Representatives on Sunday reacted to reports claiming that 360 members of the lower chamber will receive sports utility vehicles valued at 160 million naira each, totaling a sum of 57.6 billion naira as personal gifts. The spokesperson of the House, Akin Rotimi, said the reports carry varying exaggerations and that the vehicles are not personal gifts to the lawmakers, but the property of the National Assembly within the 4-year tenure of members of the House. The spokesman also stated that the vehicles will serve as work tools for the lawmakers because Nigerians deserve highly mobile representatives who can access remote locations as they carry out their duties, and that can only be achieved with functional and reliable off-road vehicles. While reactions have been trailing the budget for the SUVs, users on social media have dug up a video of President Hichilema of Zambia, who back in 2021 rejected a budget proposal of $1.8 million for the purchase of his vehicles. Let's take a look before we come back for a discussion.
Why are you using money to buy a VX for the mayor? That VX for the mayor can put toilets in all the markets in your constituency. Why do you want to pretend? You know that you cannot afford a VX. Why do you want to pretend? Because you are using taxpayers' money. Now you should pretend. After the 16th of August last year, the system came to me and said, Mr. President, sign here $1.8 million. That near Chandalama, we ordered new vehicles. Your colleague ordered new vehicles. So now you sign because you need new vehicles. I said, why? $1.8 million for the president's vehicles? Are there no vehicles in status? They are there. Are they not moving? They are moving. Are there no wheels? They have wheels. I said, I will use those. Cancel that tender. It's cancelled. I have not bought any new vehicle because I'm conscious this is not my money.
He's conscious. This is not his money. Whose money are we using? I think this is the message that the lawmakers should focus on, our Nigerian lawmakers. I think that the president of Zambia hit the nail on the head. If you already have vehicles, why purchase new vehicles? I mean, I thought that I was going to hear some sort of rebuttal from the lawmakers saying that, oh, we're not purchasing it for this price of money. But instead, they say that they actually need those vehicles.
As we try to digest this one, another one blow come out to, hey, say the thing where Bola Ahmed Tinubu go do for US, see money where he spend. Hey, my country people, where we they go, we they lament. Say poverty here, poverty there. But yet, the way this government is spending, God, how did they spend? Now so that they give more employment to people who be said don't feel they comfortable before. They know they think of the poor masses. My country people, I mean you're blessed now. Only more I see this team listen.
The Foundation for Investigative Journalists obtained a memo dated September 11, 2023, showing that the federal government allegedly spent a whopping $507,000 on hotel accommodation for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. According to the memo, over $422,000 out of the total amount covered the cost of rooms booked for the president and his close aides at the St. Regis Hotel in New York from September 16th to September 23rd, and the remaining $84,000, which is 20% of the hotel reservation cost, was for incidentals. I mean, you know, when Nigerians hear that amount, $507,000 in this economy, you know what
so
that
this
means.
Was a leak. This was a leak, and I must put a caveat, we're here to independently verify this. But if this is true, it is every shade bad. Because we can't live in a country this way when you tell the citizens to tighten their belt and you're frolicking with this amount of money. It's just very sad. You see, it's this new level of madness we have in our country. But are you surprised, Oji? We're here sitting down that an ex-militant was going to be running for deputy governor. So the system that brings our politician in is rubbish in the first place. Intellectuals, clear-headed, peaceful people don't get to the top position. For you to get to the top position in Nigeria, you must have killed people with guns. Mm-hmm. You must be able to use gun, have an army to be able to destroy and kill people. We can't build a country that way. And that's why we are falling. We are sinking. Nigeria is at a precipice today. Look at the quality of our lawmakers. Many years ago, somebody said in the parliament, was a former police officer, and he looked at the lawmakers and the senators and said, most of these people here, they've been in my cell at one point or the other. So it's not today that we've destroyed the country. In all of this, you know what hurts my heart so much? All of those cars the lawmakers are buying, the money goes to Japan. It's not Nigeria-made car. Yeah. In the 70s, Nigeria had a partnership with Peugeot Automobile of Nigeria, and most government functionaries had to drive Peugeot cars. Yeah. That same Nigeria, all of a sudden, the government functionaries said they must only drive SUVs. As at 1999, the governors that were just sworn in, most of them had Peugeot cars in their fleets. Peugeot 504, best line. All of a sudden, they say, no, it's SUV Jeeps. We are producing the SUV in Nigeria. Nord, Innoson, what's this guy's called? It gets to my head. All of them are producing cars in Nigeria. We will not buy from them. We will take the money to Japan. So even if you have bought the car from a local manufacturer to put the money, the 7 billion into the Nigerian economy, do you know how much that will have done? But the same lawmakers will be the ones to say, we don't want to drive it. We are doing ferferity and all that. We deceive ourselves too much and we destroy this country. You see, I keep singing the song that Unilag students were singing when they were protesting. They said we all have a hand in it. The story of how Nigeria got spoiled, we all had a hand in it. Gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ̀, gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ̀, bí Nigeria ṣe bàjẹ́, gbogbo wa la lọ́wọ́ ńbẹ̀. We all have an hand in it. And I just hope when the rain starts to beat us, we don't complain. Look at these people that are supposed to represent the people. Look at what they are. They are the ones that receive gifts. They receive prayers in their email address.
As this one constantly bolo they try to wrap our head around this whole thing where they go on. So we can the say the US law can talk say Tinubu has committed forgery and perjury and can be jailed under the US Federal Code Title 18 USC 1002. Bola Tinubu could face up to 5 years in federal prison for forging the Chicago State University certificate he presented to INEC to run for the 2023 presidential election. Based on this disposition of the officials of the CSU under oath, where they disowned his certificate, an alumni or CSU can take Bola Tinubu to court for forging the institution's certificate and bringing the university to disrepute. So they try to wrap our head around this whole thing. We could digest them more. Now another one just see blow come out. We can't hear say the person where Bola made Tinubu still put again. Now we come out and put president. The person we come put for the night post as the official for there will be Tola or Deyemi. Now so the workers of the Nigerian Post Service, night post, can't shut down office for Abuja. They can't say they not go work like they can't protest over the appointed person with Bola Ahmed Tinubu just put so as the executive officer. People say they not go agree. Now there that our film board they call a jury come run come out come talk say say Bola Ahmed Tinubu already make a choice and he already change the leadership. My country people. Now so we come the year say Nigeria and they rank the 4th on the World Bank borrowers list with $14.3 billion debts. I would they buy SUV of over 130 million for each of the lawmakers, each of them for over 300 members of the lawmakers, each over 130 million naira worth of SUV. Hey, Nigeria is gone.
In order for us to have a proper direction, because many don't think we're making a headway in our fight against corruption.
Well, in the first place, it has to be realized that the governments, generally, not just in Nigeria, governments do not fight corruption. It is the duty of the people, particularly victims of corruption, assisted or led by civil society organizations like the trade unions, civil rights movements, to expose corruption. And in the case of Nigeria, we must take advantage of the provisions of the law to write petitions, to follow up those petitions and ensure that they are fully investigated. And anybody who is indicted will have to be brought to book. As I did say earlier, because of class solidarity on the part of the government and those who are indicted for corruption, it's difficult for the government to muster the political will to fight corruption. Therefore, it is the duty of Nigerian people to expose corruption. The media used to fight corruption in Nigeria before the birth of the EFCC and ICPC and the rest of them. It was the duty of the media in Nigeria to fight corruption. In the days of Yutakami Aidaboyu, I'm not sure, Chamberlain, you know, you guys will know what I'm talking about. But in the 70s, all you needed to do, if you knew that a public officer was corrupt, you simply would go to a court, file an affidavit that this guy collected so much money, or he had awarded this contract to his friend or a family member, therefore he has committed corruption. From that moment, the press will pick it up and feast on it until the officer was forced to resign, or the officer decided on his own to quit the government. But these days, you know, the press, the media, you know, cannot be relied upon when it comes to exposing corruption. Maybe apart from today, maybe apart from Sahara reporters, you hardly find stories about corruption in other print and electronic media. So that area will have to be addressed. Secondly, we have to appreciate that corruption is an integral part of a capitalist system. And when you are running a peripheral capitalist system like our own, it's almost normal. It's almost normal to have corruption at this dangerous level. Therefore, it is no longer enough for Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress to talk about removal of fuel subsidy, or, you know, fight for minimum wage or better conditions of service. If the bulk of the money meant for development is stolen, there's no way you can have improved conditions of service. And that is why it has to be a battle for all Nigerians to fight this dangerous economic system that we're operating, and of course corruption that is part of it. But there's no way we can go on like this. And Nigerians have to realize that corruption is a manifestation of impunity, because you have the Appropriation Law, Appropriation Act. Once somebody has stolen money budgeted for building a hospital or constructing roads, they has committed a violation of the Appropriation Act or the Appropriation Law of a state. Today, apart from Kano State, there is no state in Nigeria that is fighting corruption. It's only Kano State that has an anti-graft agency.
Well, the thing is, Mr. Father, I mean, the media, the way they report and investigate corruption and report it will definitely differ in terms of print and electronic, where one requires visuals for people to speak about certain things. But we hear you on that particular matter. But now, particularly for security agencies, what should change? Because now, you know, usually they'll say, look, when it has to do with budgets for security, there's little or no questions that can be asked because they tell you, look, this is highly classified, these are security concerns. In fact, they have security votes in many cases, and they don't want to speak up about what should be done about that. Now that this kind of corruption cases are coming up in the security circle, should we have a second look at what happens to security votes and the way they answer questions about it?
Well, with profound respect, there's no provision for security votes under the law. The Section 217 of the Constitution, provides that the armed forces shall be adequately funded, while Section 215 of the Constitution has created the Nigerian police force, and there shall be no other force, to compete with the Nigerian police force. So if the security agencies in our country are funded, or the money meant to fund them, to acquire arms and ammunition and to improve the conditions of life of the officers or the members of the armed forces or the police force is stolen or diverted, the society must be interested, because it's akin to crimes against humanity to steal money meant for counter-insurgency operations. And that is why we must be interested in security votes. What you call security votes at the federal and state level are a legacy of a corrupt military regime, the Babangida junta. We never knew anything about, security vote. Today, I think the last study, done by Transparency International, about 241 billion naira goes for security votes in the country. Any public fund must be accounted for. So if you say, the police cannot cope with maintaining security in my state, therefore we need 2 billion every month for security, then you must account for it in the parliament. That is what the Constitution has provided for. So we must be interested in monitoring, in tracking public funds, so that we can have development in our country. Right now, the government is taking loans to pay salaries, to fund projects, because the economy is totally mismanaged. Totally. And we must go beyond simply fighting corruption. How do you erect a system that will reduce corruption to the barest minimum? How do you collect money, all the country, by foreign, agencies, multinational corporations, and departments of the government? For me, it's not about chasing one or two people or what the EFCC does now. You reel out figures of number of people convicted, and at the end of the day, these are, internet fraudsters, young people who engage in what you call Yahoo operations. Whereas those who cause them to engage in such criminality are moving freely in town. We know them. So why will a young man engage in Yahoo operations if he or she is gainfully engaged? So these are the areas we have to look at. Why is our country poor? Why are we taking loans? Why don't we collect the money owed the country by NNPC, by oil companies to the tune of over $100 billion? I was amazed yesterday when I read that, the government is going to gain to take a loan of $1.5 billion. I said, I beg your pardon. When the money...
Mr. Falano, again, if I may come in, I am just to also emphasize that we hear you when you say that there needs to be so much more exposure of corruption on the part of the media. But let me ask you this.
No.
On those that have been exposed...
I didn't say corruption on the part of the media.
By the investigations done by the National Assembly, are you satisfied? Because one of the things that people have been asking is, what exactly have come out of those investigations? Even where we all have seen that there was corruption in this particular process or in this institution, nothing seems to have been done. What are the people supposed to do about that?
Maokwe, I didn't say there is corruption in the media. I don't make general statements, you know, because you can accuse me of a fallacy of generalization if I say there is corruption in the media, you know. But what I'm saying is that the media no longer, you know, fight corruption as it used to do. But having said that, again, it's our duty to follow up on public hearing by the National Assembly. Just last week, I sent a letter to the Finance Committee of the Senate because last year, 2 years ago, that body had conducted a public hearing where it was revealed that for the past 20 years, the money destined for the Federation account by way of dividends and feed gas and taxes paid by the LNG in Rivers State total about $32 billion. Again, in the last couple of years, additional $1.5 billion has been added. And I'm writing to I've written to the Senate committee, please, can we have a copy of your report under the Freedom of Information Act? Because that's about $33.7 billion. If within 7 days I do not get a reply, I will go to court to ask the court to compel the committee to give me a copy. So we must take advantage of the provisions of the law. I mean, Mr. Emefiele, the former governor of the central bank, told the whole world that we have printed enough money, we have given enough money to the banks, and people didn't have the money. People attacked the banks. Some banks' buildings were set on fire. Some people were killed. Some died while collapsed while queuing up, you know, for money. And I had to write to the central bank, please, under the Freedom of Information Act, can I know how much was printed? To my utter dismay, whereas the central bank collected about 3.2 trillion, mop up about 3.2 trillion from customers and others, the bank only printed 402 billion naira. So we must take advantage of the law and use the law to expose corruption and get information to defend our people.
Well, Mr. Falana, we're almost out of time, and I think it's very important to say I didn't say that you said there was corruption in the media. I only said that we heard you when you said that the media needs to do more to expose corruption.
Thank you.
But just quickly, talking about the law now, you've also intervened on the EFCC chairman matter. But I'm looking at Section 2 right now, which talks about being a serving or retired member of any government, security, or law enforcement agency, not below the rank of an assistant commissioner of police or equivalent, and possess not less than 15 years cognate experience. Yes. Are you saying that that "and" ought to be ignored in the appointment of an EFCC chairman? I am saying that the cognate experience does not mean in the EFCC or in the police force or in a law enforcement agency. If you look at the meaning of the word cognate experience actually means acquiring enough skills or experience in a related organization. So if somebody has been a private lawyer and has devoted for 22 years and has devoted a substantial part of his practice to detecting fraud, you know, and so on and so forth, you cannot say that it's not qualified under and cognate experience. That's the point I'm making. No, Mr. Falana, the question is, I mean, the problem is that the new EFCC appointed chairman is not a member of any security agency. That's the quarrel. He had worked in the EFCC as secretary and a member of the board, so he's talking of law enforcement agency. Look at it very well. Not only security agency. Security agency or law enforcement agency. And in the case of Bauer, when this argument was raised, I said, no, the law is talking of law enforcement agency, and the EFCC is a law enforcement agency. So you can't say, because Bauer was not in the police force, therefore he was not qualified to be appointed the chairman of the EFCC.